Oh no, Brett, why is this showing up? I don't want this layer, Western U.S. wildfires.
Oh, you can just turn that off.
Oh. Look at that.
Yep.
Okay. Hi. Let me see if. Are we good?
Yeah.
We sound good. How about that? We have been working very, very diligently to get this whole studio and sound set up. If you could see the room in here, it's pretty cool. And you know, getting our live stream situation up and running. So bear with me. First day doing this, but excited to do it. Got a nice big green wall here, and look at this. It's, you know, I don't know. I'm 6'3", so got a nice big section here. It's big. But hey, and on a serious note, we're going to talk about the updates for what's soon to be major Hurricane Helene that's going to impact Florida. We do have hurricane watches and actually a bunch of hurricane warnings all up the coast here. And we're really kind of focusing on an impact here across the, you know, look at kind of the northeast part of the Gulf here, right really just in this indention here in the Florida Panhandle, right where it meets the west coast there. I want to zoom in here and just kind of show you really the area that we're probably most focused on. And again, I think that the worst of this is probably going to be coming around places, like say Horseshoe Beach over towards Carabel, Florida, St. Marks, Jenna, Florida, places like that there along the Gulf Coast, Apalachicola, really all those places, and possibly as far down to Homosassa Springs. Am I saying that right?
Probably not.
Homosassa Springs, Spring Hill. Regardless, this area here in Florida really going to be the most impacted with storm surge, really heavy rain, and major hurricane winds potentially. So I want to go over here and show you the latest infrared satellite loop here of Tropical Storm Helene. And boy, I'll tell you what, this has really started to take on some really impressive organization. Now it is over land a little bit, all right? It is over the Yucatan there, just barely. Regardless, one thing I notice here too is the convective feeder bands here around the hurricane. This is actually a decently sized tropical storm right now. It's actually fairly large, which will play into how much it can intensify as it works into the Gulf of Mexico, especially with some of the wind shear that we're going to be battling. So something to keep in mind there as well. But really starting to see a lot of explosion going off here with the convection and seeing organization here. We're starting to see that kind of that buzz saw look. I would imagine within the hour this is a hurricane, a Category 1. In fact, Brett just said that Recon had found 64 knot winds. So it's probably a Category 1 hurricane here within the hour or two. Central pressure 979. Is that the latest?
979.
979 pressure. So this is where the storm is coming from. We've had a really strong consensus in the track of the storm, really for several days. We haven't really had any reason or indication to question the track of the hurricane. It has waffled a little bit, maybe just kind of back and forth, say 50, 75 miles right here, but a really, really strong ensemble consensus of the hurricane making landfall right here. And again, that city in particular that I think we're making landfall in is probably St. Marks, between Jenna and St. Marks. And again, that's going to be, Jenna is, and it's kind of difficult to see, but that's right here. And then St. Marks is just kind of right here. So it's really just in that little bend upwards there in the Gulf there around Florida where we're going to see the impact of that storm take place. Okay. So again, strong consensus there in the ensembles. We want to time it out. I want to time out the arrival of this for you. This is from Tropical Tidbits here at tropicaltidbits.com. It's Levi Cohen's website. Great website. It's a free model site to look into. The latest model data, this is the H-Wurf hurricane model. By Thursday, tomorrow, 5 p.m., It has a Category 3 hurricane just off the coast of Florida. And then right here, it probably makes landfall about 7 p.m. Okay, and we're still experiencing Category 2 to possibly Category 3 winds. This is the HWRF computer model showing those winds there again of 105 knots. I believe is about 125 miles per hour or so, or 123. I can't remember the exact calculation there, but I'm inclined to wonder. I'm a little curious about if potentially that the model is underdoing the size of the hurricane. Just by infrared satellite right now, I'm curious, to see if it's bigger than what it's currently modeled. This is another version of the models here. This is some of the newer high resolution computer model data. This here would indicate, 132 knots would be a really high-end Category 4 hurricane. In fact, that may even be Category 5.
What is it?
132 knots.
132 knots.
But that would be 7 to 8 o'clock Friday that would make landfall again, right in that spot there that we talked about.
High and 4.
It's a high-end Category 4. That, to me, a Category 4 is not off the table whatsoever here. We're going to learn a lot about Helene here in the next 24 hours. Once it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico, we're going to learn quite a bit about what this storm is going to be really capable of, what it's going to do as it gets out into the Gulf, and just to see how strong can it get. The models historically have a tendency to underestimate the strength and the intensity of these hurricanes, especially in the warm Gulf waters. So just something to keep in mind.
It does seem like just comparing satellite imagery versus satellite model data, it seems like it's more organized quicker than what they indicated. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So what Brett's saying is comparing satellite imagery to model data, it seems like it's a little bit more organized and possibly a little bit bigger than what the data has indicated, which I believe is certainly going to be relevant in the sense of the intensity forecast of the hurricane. The track I don't think is going to change, but the intensity part of it, I'm concerned, can easily be a strong major hurricane for sure. This is a look at the rainfall projections from Helene. You can see down here, right across the Florida coast, you're looking at rainfall amounts anywhere from probably 4 to probably as much as 9 inches of rain. The heaviest of rain right now, and there's quite a bit of a good consensus on that, and across North Georgia, getting into western North Carolina, northwestern South Carolina. There's quite a bit of a good ensemble consensus here of probably some significant rainfall and maybe even some flooding. I actually have that map for you pulled up. This is where we have, again, the greatest risk for flooding over the next 5 days. And again, you can kind of see what I was talking about there. Northeast Georgia, northwest South Carolina, southwestern North Carolina. That high risk there, that's a 70% probability of flooding to occur. But you can see from Tallahassee upwards through most of Georgia, and then getting in through all the way up into Nashville, up there in Kentucky as well. There's a risk there for flooding and for heavy rainfall to occur from this storm as well. Now, as it gets into the Ohio Valley, there's still a potential here for there to be heavy rain. That cutoff line, though, is probably going to end up being right along I-70. We probably have some gusty winds. I think the weather models this weekend, we're still trying to do 45, 50 mile per hour wind gusts with the remains of Helene across the Ohio Valley. And the rain, though. The rain's going to be the question. I want to go back real quick to the rainfall forecast in the Ohio Valley using clarity. And again, you can see the sharp cutoff. I want you to just kind of see that line there of where the rain may cut off and where you start to see these contours. I think really you're talking the I-70 corridor along from Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and points south, I think is where you're going to be looking at the heaviest rainfall threats. I was talking with our meteorologists this morning. There's been some southward trends. The concern is the higher pressure to the north may keep the heaviest rains into the southern portion of the Ohio Valley, which, listen, we know Ohio, West Virginia, Indiana, we know we need the rain. The concern is that the high pressure may be pushing down on this and keeping the rain out of here, because this is our soil moisture percentile index right now. And you can see just how dry we are. I mean, there's no doubt that we need the rain. If you see these dark reds, this is basically that there is no soil moisture there's no moisture in the soil. So we need the rain. The trends have been a little bit south, so something that we'll have to continuously watch here as we get closer with the terms of the trend in the rainfall. So in terms of the official track map right now, this is our latest forecast, guys. I'm going to zoom in here just so you can see the thought process, and I'll step my ugly mug out of the screen. But you can see where we have right now Thursday 7 o'clock for the Category 3 hurricane to hit there. Again, I am not opposed to, or I don't think that it's impossible that we see hurricane reach Category 4 strength here just off the coast of Florida. But again, we're going to see a lot more. We're going to know a lot more in the next 24 hours as this gets out into the open waters and into the Gulf of Mexico for impact, okay? Now, one thing I do want to point out, if you look here on the bottom of our map, is you see the storm surge forecast. The storm surge certainly can be incredibly problematic. It could be as high as 6 to 9 feet in the Tampa Bay, Clearwater area, and then as much as 9 to 12 feet just north of that. But look at where we have the purple and the magenta up there. It's always on that right side of the hurricane where that wind is really kind of going up into the land, if you will, that these hurricanes spin this way, right? So all of that water and that wind is being drove into the coastline from those heavy winds. So a 12-foot plus storm surge is nothing to bat an eye at. That's probably going to be pretty problematic. And listen, the Category 4 hurricane hitting this spot, you guys aren't strangers to this. We experienced this a few years ago. Best thing to do is probably just get out of the way and, maybe get out of the area. So what I want to do real quick is go over here and look and see if we've got any comments or any questions. Brett, can you tell me if we have anything here?
So the main concern around here then is wind. That is what somebody asked.
In the Ohio Valley, yes, the main concern is going to be 30, 45 mile per hour winds. I haven't seen the latest data for today across the Ohio Valley. I don't know if you've looked at it, but I would say that would be my main concern. Again, is the heaviest rain is probably going to be along and south of I-70. Someone asked if we're doing weather and wine later. We are. What's your thoughts on the East Coast around Myrtle Beach area from this?
Should be okay.
I think you'll be fine. I think it's west because as this thing gets into land, gets into Georgia, it makes a northwest turn. You can kind of see that here. It kind of it avoids the area. In fact, if I was to take this out further, we're taking the remains or the center of that low pressure system into southern Illinois, western Kentucky, southwest Indiana. So I think you'll be okay. Good morning, Crystal. How are you?
Let's see here. Not a lot of questions.
Okay. Well, guys, I tell you what, share this with a friend. Let folks know what's going on down there in Florida. Obviously, I'm sure you're probably hearing about it on the mainstream media as well. But share it with your friends, and we'll continue to keep you updated as this gets closer, especially on the impacts as it gets further up into the Ohio Valley as well. But if you're in the path of this storm, take it seriously, get out of its way, and keep it safe. So we will be back this evening, I believe, for weather and wine.
Yeah.
4 o'clock. So might be 4:15ish, but yeah. Will the hurricane bring tornado threat into Indiana? There, maybe outside risk for that. Sure, not out of the question. When do we get the winds? I fly out Saturday noon to Denver. The winds will probably start Friday afternoon into Saturday morning. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be messy for Friday night football.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a nasty Friday night football forecast. In fact, while I have that here, I can show you. That. You can see where that low. We'll go in here to Hurricane H-Worth.
I'm going to guess the higher tornado threats to our southeast because the low kind of stays to our south.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably going to be more like southern Kentucky and Tennessee, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look, this is interesting, but because if you look at the latest HWRF, the hurricane model, as it gets into the U.S. here, total precipitation through Monday, check out the cutoff. That cutoff there is, that's kind of what I'm talking about. I did not want to do a sounding for you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we could get.
We could miss a lot of the rain, is kind of what I'm saying. And the latest hurricane model would indicate that we actually would miss a lot of that rain to the south, which listen, that was my concern, is this rainfall would really primarily set up south due to the higher pressure working in from the northwest. You can see the hurricane model certainly suggests that, but boy, does it put down quite a bit of rain down here where we have that highest risk for flooding indicated. So, guys, that's all I have for today. Thanks for checking this out. Share it with a friend. We'll continue to keep you posted.